Welcome back everybody, I hope you're having a beautiful day. We're reading some more ProRevenge stories today and I'm so excited. I'm going to read some of the top ones of all time and it's going to be fun and I hope you're excited guys. We've got a lot of stuff to read so let's get straight into it. Enjoy guys. Neighbor sued me after harassing my dog for months and lost horribly. Several commenters telling me that you guys would enjoy this story. About 6 or 7 months ago, my neighbor got a drone. I don't mind people having hobbies, but for some reason he insisted on flying like the biggest jerk possible. He'd hover it in front of other houses and windows, try to race cars that are going down the road, and worst of all, he had a habit of flying his drone in my fenced backyard, buzzing over my dog, diving low just over my dog's head before circling around to do it again. My dog isn't small, he's about 70 pounds and a Malamute, but the drone terrified him and I was worried what would happen if it hit him. I asked my neighbor several times to please not fly in my yard and I explained that it was scaring my dog. He basically told me to get lost and laughed in my face. When it still continued, I called the police. Unfortunately, there wasn't much they could do other than ask him to please not fly over my house and property. Finally, in late December it happened. My dog got tired of his crap and managed to catch the drone right as it was diving towards him. He shredded the drone. The thing was just a jumbled mess of wires and plastic. My neighbor was pissed. He stormed over to my house swearing and threatening me, which I ignored. A week later, I got a summons to a small claims court. He wanted $900 for the cost of his drone and an additional $300 for supposedly denying him access to his property. The drone sat in my yard for a couple of hours before it was retrieved. Screw that. He could have killed my dog. I don't have kids or a girlfriend. I just have my dog, who's my best friend for the past 7 years. That dog has moved with me 3 times, was there when I graduated college, saw me buy my first house and my first new car. I love my dog. I went to legal advice and I got some help from them. Turns out him suing me was the best thing to ever happen. When we got to small claims court, the judge pretty much laughed away his claims that I'd intentionally trained my dog to attack his drone. But little did he know that I was prepared. I had dozens of photos of my yard showing that it was impossible for him to accidentally fly that low to my dog, videos of him harassing my dog in the past, and I'd saved all of my medical bills from taking my dog to the vet. $700 for an x-ray, check. Another $250 to sedate him during. Why not? Don't want him being uncomfortable. Full dental exam with tooth cleaning and repair. $400. Then there was the cost of anti-anxiety meds and a secondary checkup. Wet food for a week in case his teeth were hurt. And extra just for good measure. In the end, the a-hole ended up owing me almost $2 grand and is now being investigated by the FAA for not having a registered drone and violating several FAA regulations concerning drone flight. Too near an airport, too close to other people, out of sight of operator, and way above the maximum altitude. Enjoy never being allowed to fly drones again, idiot. They deserve that so much. I was thinking that when they were doing this and the dog destroyed the drone, they would have been like, oh, well, okay, I should have seen that coming. But no, they go to OP's house all frustrated at them, like OP has done anything. Like that was so infuriating reading this. Not only flying the drone over OP's house, but tormenting their dog with it. Yeah, that's so awful. Had a pretty satisfying ending though. The next one is called A Woman Let Her Dog Poop on the Airport Floor, so I pooped on her plans. While walking to my gate at LAX, I noticed a woman whose dog was in the middle of doing its business. The woman was loudly FaceTiming with her back to the dog, so I assumed that she didn't notice. That was likely the thought shared by the gentleman who tried to get her attention. Excuse me, miss, he said in a polite tone. The woman glared at him. Your dog, he sheepishly continued, pointing to the mid-poop pup. The woman rolled her eyes and went back to FaceTiming as the man slinked away, seemingly embarrassed. Some people, she bellowed to her FaceTime companion with no hint of irony, are just so damn rude. When her dog finished, the woman started walking away, leaving everything right on the airport floor. Another woman tried to stop her. You're not gonna clean that up? She asked, as shocked as the rest of us. They have people for that, the offender replied, disappearing into the crowd as much as someone yelling into their phone can disappear into a crowd. I stood near the pile and I warned people to walk around it while somebody else got a maintenance worker's attention. No one said anything. We were so shocked that anybody could be that horrible. When I got to my gate, the woman was there too. Great, we were both going to Tokyo. When I travel abroad, I get embarrassed by other Americans doing things 100 times less embarrassing than leaving animal feces on the floor. To make it worse, her dog was now barking at everybody who walked by. I've got nothing against people who fly with their dogs, I do it often, but it's a privilege that I take seriously. The dog is well trained and behaves better than most people. He certainly behaves better than that a-hole. Speaking of a-holes, there's a pet relief area Tokyo inside LAX, past the security just 2 gates away from where the party pooper let her dog go to town. It didn't matter, she was the type of person to litter 3 feet from an empty garbage can while her dog barked at the world. The woman had moved from FaceTiming without headphones to listening to music without headphones. I don't like to throw around the word sociopath, but I don't know how else I could even explain just how selfish and terrible of a person she was. I'd bet her car was somewhere in long-term parking, parked across 3 different spots with paint on the bumper, from the child's bike that she hit without leaving a note. Everyone else tried to ignore her, sitting as far away from her as they could. I'm not everyone else. I sat down right next to the horrible woman. Are you going to London on business? I said. I'm going to Tokyo, she responded gruffly, annoyed that I interrupted her DJing. Oh, I said. Then you better hurry. That flight got moved to gate 53C. This is the flight to London. I figured that I could give her a little moment of panic as payback for how terribly she was treating everybody. I didn't predict what had happened next. She grabbed her bags and her dog in a huff and stormed out of the gate without even checking. She was so self-involved she didn't even notice that the monitor at our gate still said Tokyo, and almost everybody at the gate was Japanese. Based on her action, she believed that the flight had been moved, so she's also an a-hole for not thanking me. Some people, I thought, as I watched her rush away from the gate without stopping her, are just so damn rude. The flight to Tokyo was at gate 69A, so the 53 gates were on the other side of the next terminal, and I felt guilty knowing that she probably berated some poor clerk who had to explain to her that there was no gate 53C. I don't know if she made it back to the flight before we took off or not, but I did not see a board and I don't hear the dog. Her missing her flight was not my original intention, but it would be a fine punishment for her being so rude to everybody and making a low-paid stranger clean feces off the floor. What makes me wonder if I went too far is the knowledge that Delta only has 1 flight to Tokyo each day. Yeah, whoops. Maybe she can rebook another airline. I hear they have people for that. We need to make so many more episodes on this. God, that was incredible. But as much as you'd hope that they'd be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be such an a-hole, there's no way somebody like this is ever thinking they're in the wrong about anything. Judging from their actions in this, they're not the sort of person who's going to self-reflect about anything. But yeah, at least they got a little bit of karma for what they did. The next one is called Build a Driveway Across Somebody Else's Property Without Permission. Pay the price. I'm not sure if this one is pro enough, but here goes. I've been visiting my friend at his dad's house in an area where the land is so steep that all the driveways have to switch back up from the main road to the houses. A straight driveway isn't even an option because it would be steeper than the building code allows. A few doors down the road there lived a nice old couple who until recently had a vacant lot next door to them, but the lot had sold and the new owner had started construction on a new house. Unfortunately, the lot was so steep that the new owner built his driveway partly on the old couple's land. It was carved out of the hillside with an excavator. Probably wouldn't have been a big deal if the new owner had approached the old couple first and asked them nicely, but did he? Would I be telling this story if he had? In fact, the old couple had no idea what was happening until they came home one day to see a huge scar in the hillside snaking up from the road in from their house, across the corner of their property and winding upwards to where an excavator was working to prepare the land for the new neighbor's house. They were pretty upset, but being nice, reasonable people, they figured that it was an honest mistake, so they went over to talk to the machine operator. He didn't know anything useful, but he was happy to give him the phone number of the new property owner. The old guy gave him a call and politely explained the situation, but his new neighbor, whom he'd never even met, was having none of it. He flat out denied that the driveway crossed the property line, and he was rude enough that the old guy was pretty upset. At this point, the old couple weren't sure what to do. They double-checked the property pins to make sure they were right, and of course they were, but after further conversations with the new owner, it was clear that he was an unreasonable guy who was not going to come to the negotiating table willingly. The old couple didn't want to take legal action because that would have been expensive, and frankly, the damage to their yard was already done. At the same time, they couldn't just let somebody walk all over them like that, especially if they were going to be living right next door for the foreseeable future. So the situation stewed for a while as construction continued on the new house, until one day when my friend's dad saw the old couple in the neighborhood and they started chatting. Of course, they told him the story about the new a-hole neighbor. Now, my friend's dad really likes the old couple, who don't have a mean bone in their bodies, so he was pretty pissed about the situation, and when he went home, he couldn't get it out of his head. That evening, after a few beers, he had a brilliant idea. He called up the old couple, explained his plan, and asked them for their permission to carry it out. They chuckled and they gave him the go-ahead, so he hopped into the rusty old full-size pickup that he kept as a second vehicle and drove it over to the old couple's place, where he parked it across the encroaching driveway, making sure that it was entirely on their property. The next morning, the work crew arrived bright and early to find that they couldn't drive to the house because some jackass had parked a crappy old F-150 across the driveway. They saw the note in the window with my friend's dad's phone number on it, so they called him to ask what the hell. He explained that he had the permission from the owners to park there, and that no, he would not move his truck so they could get to work. Furthermore, if anybody attempted to tow the truck, they'd be charged with trespassing and theft. There was no way the construction guys were going to haul all their tools up the hill by hand, and they didn't want to get into the middle of a legal battle, so they just called the new owner to let them know they'd be taking the day off, and that they'd continue to take days off until the property boundary dispute was resolved. The new owner called the old couple in a fury, but the old couple told them the same thing that my friend's dad told the construction workers. Basically, the vehicle was parked on their own property, so if he had a problem with that, he could go and you-know-what himself. To make an already long story shorter, the new neighbor ranted a while, but eventually he wanted his house to be built, so the nice old couple ended up with a significant sum of money for an easement allowing the driveway to pass across the corner of their property, and my friend's dad got several thank you cases of beer and the satisfaction of putting an a-hole in his place. Edit, this occurred in a small town in Canada. For those who think I made it up, thank you for thinking I'm so clever, but judging by the number of similar stories in the comments and people asking if this was in so-and-so town, I think this does happen pretty often. Not too surprising considering the number of houses built each year in the world. Regarding the legal questions and comments, the reason the guy built the driveway where he did was because it was cheaper and easier than making it all on his land, not because there was no other option. So most of your points, if not all, are mute. I'm on mobile, so I can't paint a picture, but imagine two lots next to each other on the uphill side of a road with the property boundary perpendicular to the road. The older couple live on the left when you're looking uphill. The driveway is for the property on the right, and it snakes up the hill in a roughly S shape. The bottom 50 feet or so of the driveway crosses the old couple's land to reach the road. I'm not sure if any trees were harmed in the making of this post. The driveway was done by the time I saw it, but the couple didn't make that an issue, so I suspect not. And yeah, my friend's dad drove after drinking a few beers. Every hero has his flaw. Thank you for reading. Yeah, like this comment says, why are people so rude to their neighbors? They live right next to you. Yeah, this guy made like the worst first impression ever. Like, God, what a way to meet somebody. Like, oh, okay, you're being awful and you live right next to me. Great. Also, good on the friend's dad for helping. Like, that was so awesome of him. I hope you guys are enjoying this episode. Let me know down below if you are. Maintenance guy throws out 15 years of important knowledge. A while ago, I worked at a baseball store called Walmart, or a general goods store that sounded like that. Not so long after the Great Recession of 2008, and management was trying to cut costs because of falling profit. One of the first things that management did was fire 2 of the 3 full-time maintenance guys. The one guy they kept, I'll call him MG for maintenance guy, was amazing at his job. Everything in the store ran well because of him and his willingness to go beyond what was required to help people. A genuinely nice guy. For 6 months, management tried to make having 1/3 of a maintenance staff work, and it failed miserably. Maintenance guy couldn't do everything, and over time, management increasingly asked him to coordinate some part-timers that were supposed to do cleaning and carts. He spent so much time coordinating that he had no time for maintenance. The night crew was also cut, so they couldn't pick up the slack. Then 2 things happened within the space of a week that told management how important he was to the store running well. First, some cleaning machines broke down. Turns out they have to be properly cleaned weekly. If left alone, they gum up real bad and parts wear out super fast. A several $1,000 repair bill because he was told to prioritize coordinating part-timers over quote-unquote tinkering with machines. A few days later, the deli lady nearly quit after the blade on the deli slicer went flying off and could have cut her face bad. Turns out the bolt that had held it in place was loose, and maintenance guy had tightened it weekly for her. When he didn't have time to do that anymore, he told management that it had to be replaced for safety. Well, management didn't do that because it cost money, but they told people it was fixed. That could have been a lawsuit or criminal charges. They and the deli lady got lucky, so management sat down with him and asked him why things were going wrong. Maintenance guy told them point blank he needed enough time for maintenance, and somebody else had to coordinate the part-time cleaners and check up on them. They were rather lazy. Management called BS. They said that maintenance should be easy and done quick. Maintenance guy got mad because that insulted his professionalism, and he pulled out his notebook from his back pocket. It turns out that over his 15 years, he'd filled the book with charts, schedules, and diagrams of how to do his job and keep things running. There were over 100 things that he checked weekly or monthly. There were a lot of machines that he kept in running order. Some had certain things that were half broken and had to be wiggled in a certain way. To be honest, a lot of these things were minor or major safety hazards, but over the years, management was fine with not replacing multi-$1,000 machines if maintenance guy knew how to keep them working. As well, he did things that he should not have done, like calibrating machines for departments that should have done it themselves or contracted it out, but he was a nice guy and he liked helping people. He told me that he spent about a half an hour telling management about what he did, and he suspected that until then, nobody had ever known how much he did. Well, he may have said a few swear words and derogatory things while telling management why he needed time to do stuff. It was not a good moment for him and he was pissed. At the end, he put his notebook notebook back in his pocket and offered to take a week to write up everything that he knew so that management would have written proof of why his job mattered in case a higher up asked why they increased maintenance costs when corporate were demanding they cut costs. The multiple managers in the room looked at each other and asked him to leave so they could talk in private. He told me several years later when I ran into him somewhere and had lunch with him that he had a premonition as he walked out of the room. So we went to the back room and he tossed his notebook in the garbage compactor. For good measure, he went around the store and emptied all the garbage cans and tossed those bags in so his notebook was properly buried. He was fine with it. All that information was in his head. After a few minutes, management called him back. They told him that they could not allow him to keep working there because of the level of insubordination that he showed. They said as soon as he surrendered his badge, box cutter and notebook, he would be escorted out of the building by security. They basically treated him like a criminal. Most fired people are not escorted out unless they were suspected of committing a crime. He handed over his badge and box cutter. They asked him for the notebook. He said that he threw it in the compactor. Their eyes went wide and they asked why he threw it out. He said that he thought he was going to write everything nicely up on the computer from memory, so he thought that he was done with the notebook. At this point, management starts looking at each other worried because they'd intended to take his book, fire him, and have a less subordinate part-timer who doesn't get expensive benefits like a full-timer do his job, and now they couldn't. One of the managers suggested that he be allowed to write up the information before being escorted out, and the others agreed. Oh god, how awful are these managers? He was given the chance to be unfired just long enough to give them the information. Oh, how kind. He laughed and walked out, head held high, and management followed him to his car to make sure that he left. I don't have exact numbers, but I guesstimate the store had to spend at least 20 or 30 grand to replace all the stuff that maintenance guy kept working beyond the equipment's lifespan. And the new guy they fired had a hell of a time figuring out how things worked. To be honest, in a few cases, maintenance guy had gone too far, like creating fire hazards by taping broken charges together after rewiring them instead of tossing them. But management had never complained when he saved them money. There was also a lot of things that should have been done by the health and safety team, but they also never complained about having less work. I asked him if chucking out the notebook was illegal, but he said it was personal property to help him remember things. It was not a work-provided notebook. He was proud of what he did. His pride was clearly shown in how he told the story. He said that nobody's allowed to question his professional judgment by implying that he's lazy. I agree. Edit, after reading the comments, I'll say a few things to clarify. It might be too late for that, but I don't check Reddit while I sleep. Number one, I came in the day after the deli machine incident. I was hearing things and I asked somebody what happened. I was told that the machine malfunctioned while deli lady was using it, and she freaked out and refused to come in. She took a few days off to calm her nerves. Over the course of the next few days, I heard multiple versions of the story, some involving the blade coming off, some not, and one that involved the blade getting lodged in the ceiling. Did I pick an interesting version to retell? Yeah. The problem with telling somebody else's story is it keeps getting better every time it's told. So if you see people commenting that deli machines don't work that way, they're probably right. I mentioned that this happened during or soon after the Great Recession. According to people there, management used to readily approve replacing damaged equipment. It was after the recession they stopped doing that and relied on maintenance guys' temporary fixes. A lot of what he did was not supposed to last. He was really pissed at the end because multiple times management had refused to replace stuff that was obviously broken, and at times management had told them they would replace something and then change their minds without telling him. That's why he really snapped at the end. Some people have pointed out that replacing 20 grand of machinery is cheaper than paying a guy for 15 years. That is technically true, but stuff does not stop breaking down or stop needing to be cleaned just because someone was fired. The store had to replace him anyhow, so firing him did not save money. As well, that 20,000 or so of replacement should have happened over 4 or 5 fiscal years, not all at once. Chances are some manager kept getting good annual reviews for keeping capital spending down, not realizing that he was just postponing the inevitable. Final edit, I don't know exactly what was in the book, but I can speculate. Yeah, it was probably a lot of scribbles that could not be easily deciphered. Yes, in the long run, he was easily replaceable and the incident is a blip on profit. The one major thing management probably really wanted was the list of what machines needed to be watched or tinkered with. The couple of weeks or so after he left were a crap show because people were afraid to use stuff because of crazy stories circulating about the deli lady, but within 2 months things were humming along fine. However, this is not a subreddit about proper management or profitability. It's about revenge, and he got his revenge. Wow, another fun one to read. I'm addicted to these. I'm gonna make sure I do another ProRevenge episode super soon. I can't believe that. They were literally screwing over their best employee. I hope maintenance guy's doing well. He sounds like a legend. But on that note, I feel like that's enough for today, guys. We'll be doing a brand new episode on here super soon. But for now, let's read something wholesome. Nobody. 6-year-old me blowing air out of my mouth to feel like a dragon. Oh yeah, and not just a 6-year-old. Any age, anytime it's cold. Like, hey, look how cool this is. is I'm a Dragon. This next one is a comic that had the watermark removed, which happens so much on the Wholesome Meme subreddit. People posting people's art and taking their username out. So I think I found the original on Instagram by Inky Rickshaw. Dragon, why are you hoarding all of this gold? It's comfy. Besides, what else am I supposed to sleep on? A bed, perhaps? A what? And the dragon sleeps happily while they steal all of their gold. Could you imagine how good that'd be? Tricking a dragon into falling asleep so you can take all of its gold? But also, that's not very nice. And the dragon would probably find you and eat you. But yeah, that's a cute comic. What's that, Grandma? My treasure chest? Whoa! What treasure? Gold? Silver? Diamonds? Something even more precious? Photos of us? Oh, how beautiful. Nothing more valuable in the world. Okay, and on that beautiful note, I'm going to leave today's episode there, guys. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, guys. And if you did, and you want to see more episodes like this, make sure you like and subscribe. And the comment of the day today goes to Krylamite. It's only Monday where I live, but it's already been a long week. Thank you for the wholesome memes and the fantastic video as usual. Oh, Krylamite, you're so welcome. Thank you for watching the episode. I really appreciate the support, and I hope the rest of your week was good. And yeah, guys, thank you for all your support. It means so much to me. Before you guys go, I just searched my name on TikTok, and there are so many different fake accounts. I do have a TikTok, but I've only just sort of started using it. But the one on the screen and the one linked down below is the only one that's mine. I couldn't believe how many different accounts there were. But yeah, I literally just saw that, and I wanted to let you guys know. Okay, and as always, make sure you look after yourself, and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say, because I say it every single day. Bye!